Vaevictis Asmadi may be the most forgotten of the Elder Dragons, which is funny because it's arguably the most playable, other than Nicol Bolas. Vaevictis Asmadi is a 7/7 legendary Elder Dragon that costs 2 and 2 black and 2 red and 2 green mana, for a total of 8 to cast. Like the other Elder Dragons, Vaevictis has an upkeep cost that requires one of each of his colors, and he also has flying. Beyond that, Vaevictis Asmadi is basically just a reskinned Shivan Dragon, but it's Jund. It has 3 different instances of fire breathing, so you can pump it with a black mana, or a red mana, or a green mana. Or with 2 red mana and a green mana, or with any other combination of black, red, and green mana. That's actually fairly decent if you're willing to lower your expectations of power to the level of the original Elder Dragons. This might be the most playable in EDH because the ability isn't so threatening that someone is going to bust out their removal at the first sign of getting hit, like they probably would for Nicol Bolas, but the ability also isn't bad. Versatile fire breathing is pretty cool, and you are also in the colors of Mana Flare and Dark Ritual, plus you have access to almost every mana dork in Old Border. Like you have the obvious Llanowar Elves and Birds of Paradise or Findhorn Elves, and, you know, like Elves of Deep Shadow, but you also have stuff like Orcish Lumberjack and Tinderwall. That's pretty decent. This card definitely isn't good. It's still an 8 mana 7/7 with an upkeep cost, and about the hardest casting cost you could make in these colors, but it's not the worst Elder Dragon, and I think that counts for something. There really isn't that much to say about Vaevictis though. I don't remember much of the lore, but I think Vaevictis was tricked during the Dragon War and did something stupid, but don't quote me on that. It's been a while since I did any reading into the Elder Dragon War. The lore is messy anyway, since like half of the lore for the Elder Dragons is like pre-revision and no longer canon. Vaevictis is pretty cool though. Jund is a solid color identity, though missing out on blue is pretty unfortunate. I do think that this is likely to perform well for you in Old Border Commander though, unless people are using like real commanders. If you're doing the whole Elder Dragon Commander, Vaevictis is pretty solid. Your ability is decent enough but not super threatening, and your color identity will leave people less on edge. At least I know I would be way more cautious of Nicol Bolas and even Chromium for having that sweet blue-black access. Still, there are definitely some dangerous cards in Vaevictis' color identity, so don't expect people to write you off completely. I think I'm starting to stretch what I have to say about this card though, so let's talk about the art. All 2 of them, because Vaevictis is not often printed. They did make Vaevictis Asmadi the Dyer in M19 though. It's pretty good. Kind of. The original art for Vaevictis Asmadi was illustrated by Andy Russo, and it's pretty banger. I know I have been recently praising Edward P. Beard's illustrations for showing the dragons as intelligent, but there is something about Vaevictis being portrayed as like an angry Komodo dragon that's just kind of funny to me, and I think works as hard as the other ones, like in contrast to, I don't know, I think it's cool. Vaevictis is in the colors to be more aggressive and bestial, so I do think it makes sense, and I do enjoy seeing renditions like this as well. I like this art a lot, but I don't have much else to say about it. I think it's well executed, and I prefer it to the new style of Vaevictis. Nino Vesia illustrated the stained glass version of Vaevictis Asmadi, and Nino did a fantastic job here. I personally prefer the classic Vaevictis look, but the art direction almost surely forced the new Vaevictis look, which isn't bad. The stained glass look is very cool, and I think Nino manages to capture Vaevictis' personality really well with this rendition. The red and the black are especially appealing to the eyes as well. Overall, this work is pretty sweet if you're into it, but I do prefer the classic myself. That's it though. That's all I have to say about Vaevictis Asmadi. I'm genuinely super interested in what you think of this big old monitor lizard and your experience with the Elder Dragons. They are undoubtedly very cool, and it's kind of a shame they all suck. Yeah, that's all I have. You can like the video if you liked it, you can subscribe if you give a shit, but either way, I hope you have a magical day. Thanks for watching.